Good morning, everyone. Today, I want to talk to you about obsession. I want to reframe obsession for you. In the movie Wall Street, Gordon Gekko famously said, "Greed is good." I'm not going to go quite that far, but I do want to say obsession can be good. And I'm going to use the few minutes that I have to explain my perspective on this. But first, I want to start with a thought. I want you to think about what this guy and this guy could have in common. I realize it's probably crickets in your mind trying to figure out what a legend and this ordinary human being have in common. So, let me give you a few helpful hints. Legendary batsman? Clearly not. That's out. Height? That's probably the one area I win. I'm definitely taller, so that can't be it. 20,000 runs? In a way, but we'll come to that later. Hold that thought for now. So what could it be? It's this guy. And if you're still confused and don't know who Dr. Abhinayane is, I don't expect you to. What Sachin Tendulkar and I have in common is this. That is a scan of my back. And if you were to take a scan of his back, it would look, I imagine, largely similar. What you're seeing is a spinal fusion surgery conducted by, you guessed it, Dr. Abhinayane, in both our cases. Simply explained, a spinal fusion, yeah, ouch. Simply explained, actually, Tiger Woods, another candidate for a spinal fusion, multiple spinal fusions actually, right? Not by the same surgeon, don't get excited. Let me explain a spinal fusion. Effectively, a disc is removed from your lumbar spine and the entirety of your spinal column is now held up by 2 metal plates and 4 metal screws, what you're seeing in the scan before you. Screws over here, and that is my spine supporting my entire frame. Why am I talking about this? Why did I start here? There's a road, a journey that gets you to here. Each individual gets to this kind of horrific injury in their own special way. It's not hard to figure out how Sachin got here. That shot, that movement, that run, that stroke. He's done this day after day, year after year, for the entirety of his life. So not surprising that he ends up in a tremendous amount of pain. My journey, remarkably similar. I know exactly what this feels like because the degree of obsession that brought him here is a degree of obsession I shared in my own special way. And I must confess, I'm a distance runner. It is a horribly lonely sport, but once you catch the bug, it's very hard to let go. As a distance runner, I started my running ambitions in 2007, competed in my first full marathon in 2010, and this pursuit very quickly became from hobby through to passion and eventually an obsession. There was a point where the entire racing calendar was planned 18 to 24 months in advance. My holidays were planned to cities where there were races taking place. No distance, no weather was strong enough to stop me. That's how you end up at the operating table. That's how you end up with an L4, L5 spinal fusion and a tremendous amount of pain. That's how you end up in a walker and on crutches. Now, I've clearly talked to you about obsession. I was clearly obsessed. But I'm not here to talk to you about the negative sides of obsession. I still insist that obsession can be positive. Before we explore that concept, I want to talk to you about 3 distinct concepts. My running journey was a pursuit of words we often consider synonyms. Fitness, strength, and health. In a way, they are synonyms, but in many important ways, they're not. To illustrate this example, let's digress for a second. I want you to think about some images I'm about to show you. I want you to look at this man and form a perception. What's your first thought that comes to mind? What's the first thought that comes to mind when you see this guy? And how about this one? You've probably formed a first impression for each of them. Some of you, observant people in the audience, have realized that is the same human being at 3 different stages of his life. The first picture is of a Mr. Eddie Hall, 2017 World's Strongest Man. The second picture is of Eddie, aged 15, as an elite UK national swimming champion. The final picture is Eddie as he is today, pursuing a career as a boxer. Why am I talking to you about Eddie? What is it about Eddie that I want to borrow to the rest of the script? I spoke to you about how these words can be synonyms. Now I want to talk to you about how they can be dramatically different. In a real-world application, you're often forced to compromise between one or the other, or one for the sake of the other. So you can be superbly strong, as Eddie was. But did he look fit? Did he look healthy? Do you think he was healthy? The fact is, Eddie was 440 pounds and had to go through regular medical examinations to ensure that his heart and his vital organs didn't fail him as he pursued his goal of becoming the world's strongest man. And yet, headlines across the world don't tell you that story. What they tell you in big, bold letters is Eddie Hall, world's strongest man. And we all celebrate the tremendous bastion of fitness and health that he must be. Well, clearly he was neither. He was just exceptionally strong. And it came at a huge cost. So, you can be fit. But does that mean you're actually healthy? And you can be exceptionally healthy, but will you look it? Will you look strong? Will you feel strong? Will you actually be fit? These are trade-offs. These aren't synonyms. Now, in the words of Eddie Hall himself, and I want you to pay attention to the words he's using and not to mine. I've got to be level-headed about this, he says about his obsession, and think not only about myself, but my family and my kids. I don't want them growing up without a dad. The fact is, and Eddie has admitted this himself, he knew that if he continued down his obsession for strength, he would now be dead. He didn't let his obsession control him. He controlled his obsession. He got to his goal, he got to his Everest, and then knew when to step off. So that's how Eddie reframed. That's how Eddie's adapted. Great example. How did I reframe? Well, step 1. You've gone through this horrific procedure. Now, sitting up, standing up, all of that has to be relearned. Learning to walk? Miles away. No pun intended. But, step 1, get off the couch. The couch was really comfortable. The bag of potatoes next to me on the couch? Even more tempting. But eventually, one day, flipping channels, you get to a cricket match, and there's Tendulkar doing what he always did. And you start to wonder to yourself, is his recovery so different from mine? Is his commitment so different from mine? Is his obsession so different from mine? When the answer is no, you set yourself new goals. Believe it or not, my first goal was to learn to walk 500 meters. Didn't matter in how much time, didn't matter if it was with a walker or with crutches. I was going to walk 500 meters. And the truth is, it was really humiliating. For someone who was running 42 kilometers as if it was nothing, walking 500 meters was painful, terrifying, and humiliating. But then you reframe that in your head, and you realize it's not 500 meters. It's the first 500 meters to 42 kilometers. That's the goal. So, you get to a point where a goal is set, and you rediscover your passion. You rediscover what it is about running that made you fall in love in the first place. And you probably reanalyze it because now the physical gifts that you took for granted are gone. They are not what are supporting you. What is now supporting you is your mind. In my case, what I realized is running did something for me mentally. It centered me and gave me a sense of calm that lasted me throughout the day. That's why I did it. Health, fitness, strength, that was the excuse. That was superficial. That was vain. What was real is what it did for my intrinsic self. And finally, you embrace your obsession. You embrace a new understanding of your obsession. Because now, you don't let it control you, you control it. So, on the paradigm, on the continuum between hobby, passion, and obsession, the journey is one that can move in both, the journey is one that can move in both directions. You can convert your hobbies into passions, and a number of your passions can be converted into obsession. Should they all be? At each stage, you need to question the love of why you started something, and when the love starts to go away, why are you still doing it? So, how do you control your obsession and not let it control you? Well, let's start with a very simple concept. Great book by Simon Sinek. Start with the why. Why are you doing this? Why do I wake up at 4 o'clock every morning and run? It's not physically pleasant. It's not meant to be. We live in Dubai in the summer. It's not meant to be physically pleasant. So why do I do it? I find myself being better for the rest of the day mentally because of it. For each obsession, start with the why. Also realize that nothing is set in stone. Every hobby has the potential to grow into an obsession. And every obsession can actually regress over time all the way back to a hobby. So, it is one continuum and you can move in every direction you like. Okay? My advice, pick your obsessions wisely. Be curious with your hobbies. Pick them liberally. Discover everything. Your passions, embrace them because your passions reveal your true self. You will invest your time, your love, and your energy into things that you value the most. When you pick your obsessions wisely, your obsessions will reveal your true self. What is most fulfilling to you will come to you most naturally, and if you continue to question why, you will always center your objectives on things that matter to you the most. Just the way Sachin Tendulkar did for most of his career, I'm sure, just the way Eddie Hall has, and I would contend every single person who's ever achieved excellence has had to do. So, as for me, where does my story end? As I mentioned, to this day, every morning, I wake up at 4 a.m. and I hit the streets of Dubai. I run every single day because I want to run. So, what does that mean for the long term? What does that mean as we go on? I look at it as one simple question. What do I want to be when I grow up? If that question implies that when you grow up, you have to have your hobbies, passions, and obsessions all defined, neatly categorized, and have effectively made your bed, then my answer is always going to be, no thank you, I don't want to grow up. Thank you.